And for all of you who've been supporting KPFK and our fund drive, a special thank you to all of you. We've been down at the station working hard to be sure that Pacifica, your community radio, stays on the air. So thank you so very much. I'm glad to hear the sound of the women in the house. As women, we do the work of producing the next generation while trying to keep those we care for loved and cherished against all odds. Women know how hard it is to succeed at caring for our loved ones with bombs dropping all around, or with the children you work so hard to raise, slaughtered or destroyed in body or spirit by war in Iraq and Afghanistan, or at home by poverty, racism, sexism, and homophobia. Women have always stood against every form of suffering. We know the names of women who have become prominent against war. And we know of mothers and partners who stand with men who refuse to kill or be killed for Bush or any other tyrant, including standing with Lieutenant Erin Watata, the Asian American First Commission officer, to refuse to deploy to Iraq. Women who are black and brown, and those of us with the least, have been the fiercest in defending human life for war, but are certainly the most invisible in the movement against war. Those of us who stand against racism, whether it is in Jena, Louisiana, or Benton Harbor, Michigan, or New Orleans, or South and East LA, or against black and brown people being set up against each other, or in support of our brother Mumia Abu Jamal, and against the brutality of the prison industrial complex and the death penalty, we are also part of the anti-war movement. We have all learned that unless the military budget goes into caring, we will never stop the killing. And women in the global south demanding resources are crucial, but again invisible part of the movement against war. They have been challenging the CIA and policies of the United States, and sometimes winning against odds, including the poorest of the poor women in Venezuela from the barrios, who led the millions onto the streets to defeat the Bush administration in a coup against their democratically elected president of Venezuela, Hugo Chavez. And the women at the forefront of drafting a new constitutional reforms in Venezuela, which were passed just last week and included a social fund to provide pensions for housewives, for domestic workers, for taxi drivers, protection against discrimination of gay people now in the Constitution, recognition of the cultural and other contributions of people of African descent and indigenous descent, and the voting age was reduced from 18 to 16 years old. And perhaps the most crucial clause brings the working day down to 6 hours. No wonder the Bush administration continues to pour millions of dollars, if not more, to defeat the Bolivarian Revolution of Venezuela and to regain control of Latin America. Housewives in Argentina have also won a pension. All of this represents resources going to people, not for war and occupation. But what about the United States? What do we have here? We have $100 million a minute going to war and occupation. But let us not feel defeated. We must take hope, inspiration, power, and leadership from women and men in the global south who have less than ourselves and who don't have the luxury of giving up. We can take hope and power from the women in Oaxaca, Mexico, whose movement against poverty and repression has now spread across Mexico. We can take hope and power from the women of Nigeria who are facing off with oil companies who are destroying their environment. We can take hope and power from the indigenous women of Bolivia who have stood by their president, Evo Morales, and are facing off with the Bush administration and the minority elite who want to keep Bolivia under their control. We can take hope from the women of Ecuador who, along with President Correa, have told the United States to get their military bases out of Ecuador. And finally, we can take hope from from the women of Palestine, who are working to maintain their families and way of life in the face of genocide, and who stand with women in the peace movement in Israel against the apartheid wall and bulldozing of Palestinian homes. And we can take hope and courage from the women in Cuba who have stood against and survived a more than 40-year-old economic embargo imposed by the United States. And right here in Los Angeles, in the United States, we can take hope and courage from immigrant women and men who risk their lives to cross a border imposed by imperialism and theft, and who stand with their children every day against immigration, ICE raids, and law enforcement roadblocks going in our communities and all across this country. These are all anti-war movements, and it is good that they be welcomed as such.